Okay, so we're actually going to start lying down. We're also going to do a really nice stretch for the arms and the upper body as well. So when you lie down, you need to make sure you've got enough space behind you to take your arms. So the obvious thing is that you can actually spin around the other way and face the wall if you wanted to. You're going to have the knees bent and the feet on the floor. And then we're going to do some hip opening stuff and some arm raising stuff. Okay, so just making yourself as comfortable as you can. So once you get onto your back, it can be nice sometimes to do a little bit of manipulation in the lower back, because often it doesn't feel very comfortable initially coming down. So what is quite nice to do once you get down is bring your knees up, and obviously you're going to make a space for your baby, so knees either side of your baby, hands on your knees, and maybe just have a little bit of a roll around. So whatever feels good. So moving the knees around in a circle, or you might even want to move the knees forwards and backwards. So this forwards and backwards movement of the knees, so you're almost pushing your knees away from you and then drawing them back in towards you. And this gives your sacrum a massage. So the sacrum is this flat bone at the back of your pelvis, but it's also probably the most congested part of your body when you're pregnant. It's where all of the nerve plexus that feed your uterus, that feed your lower abdomen, including your uterus, your bladder, your bowel, all of the nerves that feed that are in a great big bundle around the sacrum. In addition to that, the sacrum is currently defixating. So normally it's fused together with the rest of your pelvis. But because it has to move during labour, some of the hormones that you've got in your body at the moment are slowly softening and detaching that fixed part of the bone, and so you often get a lot of achiness in this part of the body. So this little rolling movement can be quite nice. So then once you've done that, just drop your feet onto the floor and rest your arms down by the side of your body. And we're just going to take a couple of breaths here. So just take stock, notice how you feel. Just being aware of your physical body. And noticing all the little things that are currently happening in your body. So you might have a few little aches and pains in various places. You might be feeling tired. Or you might have a burst of energy. You might be in that middle part of the pregnancy where everything is great, the body is full of energy, all the sickness is gone from the first trimester. You're just observing where you're at the moment. And then become aware of your breath. So we use the breath as a really important part of the practice of pregnancy yoga, but also because it's incredibly useful for your labour to have this connection to your breath. So just begin to be aware of your breath. Allow the breath to gently flow in through the nostrils. Feel the sensation of your breath as you move in, as the breath moves into the body. And then feel the sensation through the nostrils as the breath moves out. Notice what other parts of your body are moving to engage with this respiratory process. So just noticing the fullness of the breath moving into the rib cage. Maybe there's a little bit of movement in your belly. You might notice the belly gently rising and gently falling. And then we're going to start to move the body. So we're going to do two movements simultaneously. So we'll just work on the first one to start with. So we're going to just take the arms up and back. And this happens on the inhale. So as you breathe in, you're just going to take your arms up and back behind you. Now here's the tricky bit, because you probably will need to take them quite wide so that you can get all of the arm to touch the floor. So think about making a Y shape with your arms. Think about slightly bending the elbows, And think about having your wrists slightly wider than your elbows, because this will help to really open up the shoulders and particularly all the muscles around the front of your chest. So remembering where that position is, where the arms need to be, and then exhaling, the arms come all the way back down. And the second practice here that we're going to do, you're going to bring the feet together, so have the inner thighs touching, and as the arms go back, the knees are also going to drop out to the side. So on the inhale, the knees drop out to the side, the soles of your feet come together, and the arms reach all the way back. And then as you breathe out, lowering the arms and just letting the knees come all the way back together. You can make the breath as long and as slow as you like. And you can always modify any of these movements. If it doesn't feel comfortable to take the knees all the way out to the side, you might want to just put a pillow or a block underneath one of your thighs. I've got spare blocks and bricks if you want one, if you need to put one under both thighs. And that can reduce any discomfort that you might have in the hip joints. So I'm just going to do 2 more of these. Notice if the shoulders are becoming a little bit looser. Notice if the hips are becoming a little bit looser. And then when you finish that last one, just coming back into the position that you started with. And then for our second move, we're going to do a little bit of a spinal twist. So we don't want to twist too much in pregnancy because it can pull the abdominal muscles too much. Having said that, just getting a little bit of rotation through the lower back is really nice when you've got lower back niggles as well. So you've got a couple of options with the arms. You can either take them out to the sides and lay them on the floor with palms up. Now just check that you're not going to poke your neighbour's eye out, and they were a little bit close in here today. So just check that you can take your arms out. Or, yeah, good idea. Yeah, or you can stagger and make sure that you've got enough space. If you want a really strong stretch in your shoulders and your shoulders are in a position to be able to take it, you can actually interlace the fingers behind the back of your head and just get the elbows to touch the floor. That makes the pose a lot more stronger in the upper body. So you can kind of play around. If that's too strong, then just extend the arms all the way back. Now, if you have got any niggles with the lower back, something that you can do as you take the knees over to the side is to actually have a brick, so that you're not taking the knees all the way to the floor, because that might pull the lower back too much. Now, as I said, I've got quite a few of these at the front, so I'm very happy to bring some around if you need it. So we're going to do that with the breath again, so that the inner legs are touching. You're going to breathe in. And as you breathe out, slowly take your knees over to your right side. Just notice how that feels. And then as you next breathe in, bring the knees all the way back up to the center. And as you breathe out, just let the knees come over to the left side. And as you breathe in, knees gently come back to the center. And you're just going to continue in that same way. If you want to, you can actually turn the head in the opposite direction to the knees, and that continues the rotation all the way through the whole of the vertebral column. You keep the breath nice and slow, so consider breathing slowly, breathing fully, so that the movements are controlled and we're not trying to move too quickly. Notice if the back is starting to loosen. So again, the more repetitions we do of particular poses, the more the body begins to relax. Lizzie, what would happen if you brought your feet a little closer towards your body? That might take the twist a bit more into your back and away from your hips. Just see if that feels different. We're getting a bigger stretch in the back now.
Yeah.
Perfect. And is everybody okay in terms of not needing a brick under their legs. You're all happy with this move. Okay, so just do a couple more. Just gently allowing your lower back to release. And then the next time you take the knees to the left, can you make that the last one of your practice? And then from there, you can just release the arms. And it's quite nice to come into that counter pose that we did at the beginning. So the knees coming up, making space for your baby. So knees either side of your baby bump, hands on your knees. And then again, finding that move that felt good. So maybe circling, maybe pushing the knees away and then drawing them back in. So this sacral rollout, but also you can feel you're getting into the lower back as well. So the more we bring the knees up towards the armpits, the more the lower back gets rolled out, and the more you push the knees away, the more the movement goes into sacrum. So you can adjust where you're feeling these moves. And then coming all the way back to the centre, and then dropping the feet to the floor. So we're going to do a little bit of back bending. So this is quite nice for the back. It brings a bit of strength into the lower back, and also gives you a bit of stretch on the front, which you don't often get when you're pregnant, because you tend to be, you know, kind of hunching forwards over your bum. So the feet are going to be hip width apart this time. So you want to make the feet as wide as your hips. Have them fairly close in towards your body. And you've got a couple of options with your arms. You can either lay them on the ground by the side of your body, or if you feel that you'd like to do more stretching in the upper body around the shoulders, you take them back behind you, how we did before, but you're just going to keep them there this time. So push your feet into the ground, and as you push your feet into the ground, allow the buttocks to lift off the floor and just come to wherever you're comfortable. So just lift them up to the point where you know you can't go any further, and then have a little jiggle here. So wriggle the hips, lift one hip, lift the other hip, have a little jiggle around, and then that can free the back up a little bit more if there's any compression or congestion in the lower back. And then you slowly peel the spine back down, so one vertebrae at a time. Push the lower back all the way into the ground. And then we're going to do this with the breath. So the next time you breathe in, you push your feet into the ground, you let the hips lift up, the lower back lifts, maybe the middle back, and then as you breathe out, you gently peel the spine all the way back down to the ground. Try and get each vertebrae to move into the floor. And it may be that the back goes down in chunks, and that's quite common when you first do this pose. If you haven't done it before, you might not have independent vertebrae at this point. We're just going to carry on. So again, repetition will eventually have more results. So you continue to gently rise up as you breathe in, and make the work come from the legs. So really push the feet into the ground as if you're trying to push the ground away from your feet, and that activates your buttock muscles, your glutes and your thighs, so your back can be a bit more relaxed. And then as you breathe out, you gently peel all the way down. And just as you did with all the other poses, you might find that with each repetition, you're getting a little bit looser. The body is responding a little bit more. So you might find you can actually climb up a little higher into this back bend. We're just going to do one more. And then when you come down this time, you can just release the arms all the way back down again. So now you're going to bring the right knee in towards you and stretch it up to the ceiling. So you're going to do some leg stretching. You can hold the leg wherever you're comfortable, maybe the thigh, maybe the knee, maybe the back of the shin, so wherever you're comfortable here. And then point your toes up to the ceiling on the right foot, and then pull the toes back towards you. And do the same again. And just do that a few times. And what you'll feel, particularly on the pulling the toes towards your head, you're going to feel that extra stretch down the back of the leg. So this is a hamstring stretch, but also there's a bit of calf stretching happening when we are pulling the toes towards the head. So now rotate the ankle around, and this often gives us a lot of clicking sounds, particularly in the evening classes. You've been on your feet a lot. And then rotate the ankle in the opposite direction. And then just lightly press the left foot into the ground and see if you can bring the right leg a little closer in. So we're stretching the hamstring, but you don't want to go too far so that it's uncomfortable or that it's painful, because if it's painful then your body will just seize up. So just allow a softening of the leg coming forwards. And then a bit of a hip stretch. So now you're going to take hold of your right foot with your left hand. You're going to bend the right knee and you're going to bring the ankle onto your thigh. So this is reclining pigeon pose. So you can lift the left knee off the ground if it'll come up. And then depending on how much room you've got, you can just roll around as you did before. So just rolling the left leg around, finding some deeper spaces where you can stretch into the hip. And then keeping the right leg on the left thigh, drop the left foot to the floor again. And then slowly take both knees in this position over towards the right side. So what you're doing here is giving a really strong hip stretch. So you're dropping the right knee towards the floor. The left leg will internally rotate, so you'll have to drop onto the inside of the foot. And you should feel quite a strong stretch in the left hip and a little bit of a belly stretch as well. And then gently rise all the way back up. Place the right foot back onto the floor. And then bring the left knee into your chest. And then extend the leg all the way up to the ceiling. So again, you can hold that leg wherever you're comfortable. Point your toes up to the ceiling. And pull the toes back towards you. And the same thing again. And notice how it feels on this side. It's very rare that we have two perfectly identical sides, so it might be that on this side you're a bit stiffer, might be that you're a bit looser. And then rotate your ankles, or ankle on the left side. And then in the opposite direction. And then from here, just very lightly pressing the right foot into the ground. See if you can get a little bit more of a stretch in the left leg. So gently drawing the left leg towards you, but again, not creating any tension, just observing where you can come to. And then place the left ankle, the outer ankle bone, onto your right knee. So letting the left knee come out to the side, reclining pigeon pose on this side. Drop the hands to the floor, lift the right knee off the floor if that's comfortable. And if it is, have a little play around here, just moving through the hips. So the hips are also a place of congestion during pregnancy. It's no surprise really, there's a lot happening in the whole of the pelvic girdle. And a lot of the muscles and ligaments that normally support the pelvis are softening and loosening. So it's not uncommon to find that there's a lot of hip pain or just discomfort. So we do got a lot of hip movements and a lot of hip stretching and hip strengthening in the classes. And then keeping the left leg where it is on top of the right knee, lower the right foot to the floor, and then we're just going to do that little twisting movement. So keeping the feet as they are, just roll the legs over to the left side, but you'll need to rotate onto the inner edge of the right foot to allow that deeper rotation. And just notice how that feels. So you might have a bit of a stretch in the right hip, it might be in the lower back. And then gently come back up to the center, undo the left leg, and then for the final time coming into your counter pose, so knees in either side of your bump, and then whatever move felt good. And then bringing the feet down to the floor, and then just roll over to one side, doesn't matter which one, and just take a breath here. So just put yourself up for a moment. So you're lying down for about 10 minutes, so you'll need to just sort of recalibrate your blood pressure, particularly if you have got low blood pressure at the moment. And then when you feel comfortable, you can slowly come all the way back up. Okay, so from here, coming over onto your hands and onto your knees. So this is, oh God, taking my hair scrunchie on my sleeve. So, coming onto the hands and knees, the all fours position. So for those of you who are new today, this is kind of another bread and butter pose. It's one of the best positions for birthing, both for stage 1 and stage 2. So we tend to get on our hands and our knees every week, more or less. When you're in labour, the likelihood is that you will be doing this over a ball or a chair or whatever, or in a birthing pool, or you'll have some kind of support, which makes it a lot more easier than doing it like this, which isn't particularly comfortable, particularly if you're thinking, oh, I might have a 7-hour labour. You're not going to want to be here for 7 hours. So just take some time, have your knees underneath your hips and your arms underneath your shoulders, but make sure that you haven't compressed your spine. So what you don't want is to have a really short pose, because there's nowhere for your spine to move to. So if you take the hands a bit further forwards so that you can actually get some space into your spine. So this is another bread and butter pose for the lower back, so one we do pretty much every week. You might remember this, Lucy, is it all coming back? So we tuck the tailbone under, and that allows the back to round, and then what you'll feel here is this decompression of the lower back. So the more you tuck the tailbone under, the more you arch your spine to the ceiling, the more you're going to create that space between the lumbar vertebrae. You might just want to ease the hips from side to side. That can also get into some of the quadratus lumborum muscles, these big muscles that connect the lumbar spine to the back of the pelvis. And then we can add on to this. You will need to make some space between your knees, and that space will be big enough for your baby. So it's going to be different for all of you. So you're going to keep the back in the rounded position, and then you're going to take the hips back to the heel, but keep it round. So don't untuck. Keep it tucked under, and then as you go back, you're going to really get this pull in the lower back, which will help to lengthen the muscles in the lower back. When you get all the way back, if there's any compression on your baby, you need to widen the knees a little bit more. And then again, you can sway from side to side here. Just get the hips to gently move, over to one side, move to the other side. There's just a feeling of looseness emerging. So tuck under a bit more there, Lizzie. So tailbone, yeah, and then take the hips further back. So keep the pelvis in that position, but go, just take your bottom to your heels. And push into your shins to rise up. So when you want to come up, push into the shins to rise up. So we're going to do that dynamically with the breath. So you're going to breathe out, tuck the tailbone under, roll the spine back to the heels. And then as you breathe in, push the shins into the ground and allow that to push you all the way back up. So just do that 2 more times. So exhaling, tucking under and rounding. On the inhale, pushing into the shins. Coming all the way back up. So you might find there's a bit more space in the lower back now. The body might start to feel a little bit lengthened. So we're going to add a little bit more of a sequence into this. So you're going, I'll show you how it's going to go. Exhale to here, and then you're going to drop the elbows to the floor, and you're going to scoot forwards and then push up. So it's a little bit like a reverse push-up. So it's quite good for the upper arm muscles to do a little bit of weight training, because you're going to be carrying a heavy growing baby for a while. So getting some muscle strength isn't a bad thing. So exhaling, round the back, put the tailbone under, bring the hips all the way back to the heels. And this time drop the elbows to the floor and just scoop the chest forwards until you feel that you can push all the way back up. Do that 2 more times. So rolling and tucking on the exhale, and then scooping forwards and pressing up on the inhale. Okay, and then just tuck your toes under. Come and sit back on your heels for a moment. This is a horrible stretch, but it's very, very good for your feet. So if you need to come out of this, or if you've had a broken toe, you've got arthritis, if you've got metal plates in your feet, or you've got hammer toes, they're the ones they don't bend, this isn't going to work for you. So if you have any of those, then you can just flatten the toes and come down instead. So we're going to work with one of the birthing breaths. There's a range of breaths that we use every week which allow us to prepare for labour. This is pain training. There is a reason for this. So the breath we're going to use for the next couple of sequences is the ha breath. So those who are new today, you create this sound by kind of slightly contracting the muscles in your throat as if you were cleaning your glasses. Yeah. And what it does is it lengthens the exhale. The exhale when you're birthing is the one that is your best friend, particularly in the pushing phase, because you can get a lot more pushing out of an exhale than you can from an inhale. But also the exhale is the relaxing, releasing, letting go part of the breath. So the longer you can exhale, the more you can focus on your exhale, the more you're going to use your breath as part of your tools for your birth and for your labour. So we are going to come into downward facing dog. So you're going to tuck your toes under and then press into the hands and just tilt the tailbone up to the ceiling. So this is a tilt now rather than a tuck. It's the opposite movement that we were just doing. And then just drop one heel at a time towards the floor. Keep pushing your hands into the ground, particularly the heels of your hands. And just see how that feels in the backs of the legs. You don't want to have too much weight in the arms, so see if you can keep pushing the weight backwards. And then bring the knees down onto the floor. So downward dog's quite a nice stretch for the body, but it is also really, really useful if you have low blood pressure, which most women do in the early phases, the early stages of pregnancy. Are very typically low blood pressure, and then it kind of rises and rises up towards the end. So if you have like middle to high blood pressure at the beginning of your pregnancy, the chances are you might get hypertensive towards the end. But we've got tools for that. There are some really good breath works that you can use to lower the blood pressure. But if you've got low blood pressure at the moment, it's kind of like hanging the head down in a controlled way, which can stop you feeling dizzy and just bring more blood into the brain, which is what you're lacking when the blood pressure is low. You can't get enough oxygen into your brain. So we're going to do that in conjunction with the ha breath. So I'll show you how it's going to look. So we're going to exhale. And then inhale normally. Keep the toes tucked under. Going to come back into that horrible position. Inhale back, take the hands back out in front, and then okay. So we're going to do that a few times. If your toes have had enough, just come and sit back normally. Okay, start with your toes tucked under, stretch the arms out in front, and then the next time you breathe out, ha breath, down facing dog. As you inhale, just bring the knees back down to the floor, and then exhaling again, ha breath, walk your hands back so that you can sit back onto your heels. And then inhaling normally, walk your hands forwards. And then exhale, down facing dog with your ha breath. Inhale the knees back down, keep the toes tucked under. Exhale, ha breath, walk your hands back and sit back on your heels. And just do that one more time in your own rhythm. So rather than trying to fit your breath into my instructions, just go with your breathing rhythm, however that is. Okay, you can Untuck your toes. It's not a nice one to do at the time, but it's one of these ones that's really, really good for your feet. And when you come to stand up, your feet will feel really spacious. So
the toes are weird, they curl like right under the other way, but they don't curl like that.
Okay, yeah, my sons do.
That really weird.
So some people, because we're all very different. So the other way.
I sit like that at home.
The other way of sitting in this is to stretch the tops of your toes and tuck them under that way and sit back on your heels. Now I can't do that. I can only get to here. You'd be able to do that without a problem because your toes do that naturally. But for most of us, I think you probably all find the same as me that way. Some people can sit quite comfortably back. But yeah, my son's got the same. He won't bend that way, no matter how much I tried to do it when he was little. Okay, so our next move, which is going to be a little bit of a hip stretch. So you might need a brick, depending on where you are in your pregnancy. But also, it's not just about where you are in your pregnancy. So the bigger your bump, the more lifted you might need from a block or a brick. But it can also be about proportion. So this is something that isn't really talked about a lot in yoga classes, but it's something that is right at my heart because I have got a very disproportionate body, and it took me years of yoga to realise why I couldn't do things that other people could do. I've got really, really long legs and a tiny body and little dinosaur arms, so a lot of things don't suit me. And so I have to modify things as well. So as an example, if I was to come into this lunge, for me, because my legs are so long, if I bring my hands onto the floor, I'm dropping down quite considerably to get my hands on the floor. If I was pregnant, that would be even worse. So for me, I feel I get a lot more spinal extension if I come onto a brick. So I use bricks and blocks when I'm practicing, when I'm teaching. So I have to, just because of the shape of my body. So that is something you might want to consider. So it might be a proportion thing, or if you're in the third trimester, you're probably going to need a bit of space. So if you can just step your right foot forwards onto your mat now, and just see how that feels. And if you think you're going to get a lot more space by having a brick, then let me know. You're going to definitely need one.
Yes, please. I have one, please.
Yeah. Yeah. So so I've got bricks. I've got blocks. So a little one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And then so you have the brick, and then maybe you have 2 blocks. Is that okay? Everyone else all right? You can also come onto your fingertips. That's another option. So from this position, just hinge forwards and backwards. How does that feel? So just easing the legs out. And then from here, just push onto your thigh and rise up. Now what you're looking for when you're in this position, also if your knees are uncomfortable, having these knee pads quite good. I've got a spare one, so if anyone's got a knee niggle, I can give you a little flower. So when you're in this position, you want the knee to be directly over the ankle, and that's the same as standing poses. When you've got the front knee bent, you want the shin to be supporting you. You don't want to be here, because you're just putting all your weight through your cruciate ligaments. Not a good thing to do to your knee. So just check that that is fully supported. Okay? And then interlace your fingers and just release the index finger. So we're going to do another breath now. This is Ujjayi breath, or ocean breath. And it's kind of like an internalized ha breath. So where with the ha breath, with the mouth open, we do exactly the same thing, but with the mouth closed. It's a little bit like if you're sighing under your breath, you know, if you're fed up. You can also call it the Marge Simpson breath. But you're still having that little restriction around the throat. And then you also do it on the inhale if you can. And it makes the breath really long, and it has this lovely sound of the ocean. If you can't do it, just breathe normally. As long as you're breathing, that's the main thing. So from here, on the exhale, drop the fingers down to the floor, and then hinge forwards and all the way up. So lift the rib cage. And then on the exhale, bring the hands all the way down, turn the fingers towards the floor. And then inhale, sweep forwards and up. Push into the right foot, so you've got some support from that leg. And then on the exhale, bring the hands down, point the fingers back down to the floor. And do that a few more times. So sweeping forwards and up. We'll just do one more. And then just bring the hands into the heart. So you're going to come into a slight side bend. So for this one, what you might want to do is turn the back shin behind you and walk the foot a little bit around so that it's in line with your knee. So you're kind of coming into a sideways position. Again, you just want to make sure the knee sits over the ankle and you haven't gone too far over. So then from here, drop your right elbow onto your thigh. And you'll see the beginnings of the side bend down the left side. So as you breathe in, take the left arm up over the head. And then as you breathe out, see if you can lengthen the waist. So just open up the left side of the waist, let the rib cage move away from the pelvis, and at the same time gently circle the arm all the way over the head and down towards the foot. So still with that ocean breath, inhaling, circle the arm up to the ceiling. On the exhale, circle it the other way, but lengthen the waist. So draw open through the left side of the body by lifting the rib cage away from your pelvis. And just about a few more times. So keeping that movement flowing with the breath. So we want to keep the body pretty much in the same plane. So rather than twisting forwards, you just want to keep the arm moving in the shoulder joint, because this is what we're doing, we're lengthening through the side of the body. And then the next time you come down, you can bring the hands to the floor, swivel the knee, move the foot back out to the side, and then slide the knee all the way back. Make space for your baby, tuck the tailbone under, roll the spine to the ceiling, ease the hips back to the heels. And just have a little sway from side to side. Then push into the shins, rise all the way up. So now the left leg steps forwards, and you hinge forwards and backwards. Giving a little bit of space into your hips. And then once you feel that you've loosened the hips enough, you can push up onto your left leg and just make sure everything's in the right place. So just as we did on the other side, just ensuring that you're not going to go too far over that knee. Interlace the fingers and just release the index finger. And then working with the ocean breath again. So breathe out first of all, drop the fingertips to the floor. And then breathe in, sweep forwards and up. Try not to lift from the arms and the fingers, lift from the rib cage instead. So you're making space for your baby. And then as you breathe out, hands come down, turn them towards the floor. Next time you breathe out, you can relax that movement. Bring the hands to the floor and then swivel the right shin behind you. And then just walk the left foot slightly forward so you can come into the side angle variation. And you want to make sure that your knee is connected to the foot, and then drop the left elbow onto your thigh. Just feel that length through the right side of the waist now. Still with your ocean breath, as you breathe in, take the arm up to the ceiling. And as you breathe out, lengthen the right side of the waist by drawing the rib cage away. Circle the arm over the head and then circle it all the way down to the floor. And just continue in that same way. So inhaling, circle the arm up to the ceiling. Exhaling, circle it the other way, but do that by lengthening the side waist. A couple more times. And then the next time I've finished, bring the hands back down to the floor, walk the foot out to the side, swivel back underneath, and then bring the left leg back. Make space for your baby, roll the spine to the ceiling, and just bring the hips all the way back to the heels again, keeping the back round and just having a little sway as you go. And then come all the way up. Now tuck your toes under, walk your hands back towards your knees, but you're not going to sit on them this time. You're going to lift the knees off the floor and then drop the heels down to the ground. Make space for your baby and have a little dangle here. So walk your hands all the way back to your feet and then maybe just release the neck, release the shoulders, release the back. And then bend the knees, push the feet into the ground and very slowly curl up. So keep the knees bent, push the feet into the ground and rise all the way up again. Just going to move the camera a little bit because my head's chopped off. So you're going to take the feet a little bit wider and turn the feet outwards. So this is we call it sometimes yogic squat. It's a wide-legged squat. You want to make sure that your knees are pointing the same way as your feet, because anything other than that is going to damage the knee joint. So just ensure that the knees and the feet are not going in different directions. And just shift your weight from side to side. Now just have that first. This is a stretch of the insides of the legs, inside of the thigh, inner groin. And then come back to the center. And then you're going to do this one again, interlace the fingers, keep the index finger pointing forwards. Drop down into your squat again. So we'll do it slowly and then you can kind of work it with your breath. So we call this the pendulum. So you're going to take the arms over to the right side, and as you do that, the left leg might naturally straighten. And at the top of your inhale, you've got a stretch from the outside of the left leg all the way through to the fingers. And then on the out breath, you swing the pendulum all the way back to the center and back into your squat, and then you inhale up the other side and feel the stretch on the right side. And then exhale, swing back into the pendulum. So just continuing. Still using that ocean breath. Remember to bend the knee, the side that you go over to, and then come back. And then the next time you swing to the left, just make that the last of your movements. And come back into the center. Draw the toes in, draw the heels in, toes in, heels in. And then have a little bounce. So these movements, this rebounding as it's known, is quite good. So you're just going to bounce the heels up and down quickly. Make everything wobble. It's just what you don't want as a woman, isn't it? Making it wobble. Luckily there's nobody here, anything else. So just bouncing it all. And then you want to get the hips and the body and the shoulders to shimmy as well. Kind of frees up any resistance, any tightness that you might be holding in the body. And also gets your bladder going, so apologies. Should have mentioned that at the beginning. Also for the new ladies, sorry, most important thing, the toilet is just on the other side of that door. If there's somebody in there are more toilets downstairs where you came in, so you come down the stairs, out the little door, and they're on the right hand side, so just go when you need to. We don't have a loo break. So we're going to do a little bit of balancing, but we're going to do it with partners. So we're going to do some partner work. So the ideal thing when you're working with a partner, that's if you want to. If you don't want to work with a partner, you can use the wall instead. Okay, so I don't want to force anyone to do anything that they might not be comfortable with. So if you don't want to have a partner, you can have a wall instead. Because we're going to use the partner as a sort of a counterbalance, you kind of need to have someone that's fairly level in your height. So Pippi, you've lost your partner because Amy's had her baby, but luckily Caroline could be your perfect stand-in partner. So have a look around, someone that you like the look of, and then if you've kind of got fairly, reasonable, similar height. I mean, it doesn't have to be bang on, but you just don't want to have like a really big difference. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go on one of your mats and you're going to face each other. Now we have got obviously Rupindas in the bathroom, so we have got an extra one, which means that somebody will work with me. Okay. So find your partner. We work with partners, Rupinda, but there is an extra person because we've got an odd number, so somebody will. So actually, Charlotte, you're probably quite good with. Is it another Emma? Yes. I'm just going to call everybody new Emma because I'm going to get there's a good odds on that. Okay, so.
My extra.
Lizzie and Lucy, are you together? Yeah, you're with me. Is it right?
Yeah, I'm going.
Okay, so you're going to face each other, and the first thing we're going to do, so if you want to come on the mat, yeah, that's fine. So one of you is going to be the balance support. So you need to make sure that you've got a nice, good, kind of almost like martial arts stance where you're rooted into the ground. The way to do that is to bend the knees, kind of shift the weight through the buttocks into your heels. A little bit of core work, and then you're just going to kind of bring the elbows in. Okay, and then, so I'll be the support, and then your balance person, actually no, you better do that, Andy, because you don't know what you're doing, do you? So I'll turn this way so that you can see. So I'm going to hold Rupinda's hand. She's going to help me balance. I'm going to root down my standing leg, and I'm going to circle this leg. You can take the arm up as well. Arm up. It's a little bit of a balletic move and down. So all that's happening on one side. And then once you've done that a few times, you can actually bring it into tree balance. Okay? You don't have to put the foot into the thigh. If it ain't going to go there, you can have it lower down. Just avoid the knee. Don't hook it over the knee. Thank you very much. And then obviously once you've done that, do the side. So a few of the movements, then the actual support with the. And if in the balance, if you feel after a while you think, hey, do you know what? I'm good here. Come out of it. Have to bear in mind, carpet, not great for balancing, which is why it's better to do it, particularly when you're pregnant with a partner. Having said that, pregnant women are my best balancers because you've got a very rooted centre of gravity. So this is the centre of your body and you're rooted into it. So actually it's easier to balance when you're pregnant than any other time in your life, apart from maybe when you're a young kid. So yes, if you feel that you think you can go without the support, then go for it. Okay, so decide who's going to be the supporter. Up and down. Stand up and lie. Take that on if you want to. Yeah, it's a Try to try that. Somebody went to lick their hands. It works, but I wouldn't want to put my hand down. I'm not. If you haven't already said sorry, I'm supporting you. I've got you. That was it's not meant to be Okay, ladies, so the next one we're going to do, this is a good favourite. It's the kitchen sink stretch, which is a really good stretch for those of you who've got lower back niggles or anywhere along the spine. It's a really good traction along the length of the spine. You can do it with a partner here, or you can do it over your kitchen sink at home. So Rupinder, you're going to be my glamorous assistant again. So you start by holding hands, then you bend your knees, and then you just walk backwards until you can lean away from each other. You want to get your back as flat as you can towards the floor. So relax your shoulders a bit more, Rupinder. That's it. And then we're leaning away from each other. So Rupinder's leaning slightly backwards, I'm leaning slightly backwards, and oh, that's nice. So what that's doing now is just gently pulling my spine open. If you want to, you can just go side to side if that opens up a little bit more. And you can stay there for as long as you're comfortable. When you want to come up, tell your partner, because you need to come up together. Are you ready? Yeah. And then you just come up, okay? It's so nice. Okay. So facing each other, holding hands. The knees have to be quite bent. So once you've held hands, you might need to come a bit further up because you've got nowhere to go there, Lucy. And same with you, Jen. Come further forward because you've got to walk your feet backwards. So Lucy and Lizzie, bend your knees a little bit and then stick your bottoms back instead. So imagine you're leaning away from each other. So trust that each other is going to support you. And then you should get this lovely sense of pull. Have you lost your work?
Yeah.
Do you want to do a good girl? Do you want? I've got some remote here.
Are you a shoulder?
Yeah.
Okay.
You let me know when you tell your boss that's
Okay, and then just notice how that feels. So you might feel a real sense of openness around your shoulders, around the upper back. How's that? How's your back?
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's getting better.
It's probably alright. Pushing like your left shoulder.
Right, okay. Are you sleeping a bit funny?
I don't know, I'm sleeping on the side. Yeah.
Maybe.
It's always
Yeah. So maybe try. I mean, you have to get creative with loads of pillows. And if you've got one of those maternity pillows, you know, the sausagey ones, maybe put it under the arm, around the neck, and just kind of play around and see if there's any way that you can support yourself a little bit better. It's really difficult getting comfortable when you're pregnant, particularly if you're not a side lier. Yeah, so you have to be quite creative and just take up as much bed as you need with all your pillows. Okay, so a little bit of upper body stretching. So we're going to come back into our little squatting position. Yes, oh yes, come back to your own mat. Yeah, you don't need your partner anymore. So just getting back into that position that felt comfortable for you. And then you can straighten the legs. You're going to take the arms up over the head and hold opposite elbows. This is a good stretch for the upper body, but it means that it's good for heartburn and it's good for shortness of breath, which again is something else that's quite kind of common in pregnancy. So then you're going to go back into your squat. And as you breathe out, just lean over to one side. So you're lengthening the waist. And as you breathe in, come back to the center. Now at this point, if you want to, you can straighten. If the knees and the thighs are going, oh, I can't hold this, straighten the legs. And then you can go back into the bend as you come over on that side. And then on the inhale, come back to the center. So again, you've got your choice. You can stay in the squat if you're comfortable. Engage some pelvic floor here. So you can push the feet into the ground and use that action to give the pelvic floor muscles a little squeeze. So bend the knees a bit more, Karen, get a proper squat going. Lovely. So then we can add to this if you want a little bit more. You come over to the side and then you sweep all the way down to the floor. Then you sweep up the other side. And come all the way back up. And then you do the same on the other side. So you come over and down. And we'll just do that 2 more times. You might feel that the back is getting a bit looser, the upper body is getting a bit looser. And then you can release the arms. So to bring the feet in, you can turn the toes in, turn the heels in, turn the toes in, turn the heels in, and then you might have a little rebound jiggle again, so just getting all the tightness, muscular tension that might be happening. Just getting it to release a little bit, and then just gently curling down. So then we can transition to sitting by bringing the hands to the floor and then walking the hands forwards until your knees come down to the floor. And just come and sit back on your bottom. So swivel the legs around and stretch the legs out in front. So you're sitting with the feet out in front. So one final stretch. So we'll do half butterfly pose. This is going to work on a couple of the areas that we did earlier on. So hamstrings on the right leg, hip on the left leg. So right leg is straight, left leg, I'm going to bring the sole of the foot to come and rest on the inside of your thigh. Try and make sure that you haven't pushed the left hip backwards. So sometimes, particularly like me, if you've got a long shin, the tendency is that the left hip is going to go backwards. And you want to have the hips level, so you might have to, like I have to sort of creatively stick my toe underneath, so my hips are level behind. And then you're going to bring the hands onto the knees. And we're going to use another breath, another birthing breath, the B breath. This is really calming, really soothing. So it's going to take us kind of gently towards the relaxation period of the class. It's going to help us to wind down. But also it's very good for your baby. So this is a sonic massage, a vibratory massage for your baby. And there's been some theorizing that hearing this sound, this humming sound, can be very soothing for babies, and that it can be possible to reduce fetal heart distress in labour if they use this sound, if you use this sound as one of your birthing breaths. So it's just humming on the out breath, that's all it is. So I'll start, and then you can just join in whenever you're ready, and don't all try to hum at the same time, because you might have to hold your breath for a really long time. So just go with your breath rhythm. So we'll do the movement first, and then we'll have the breath in. So on the inhale, the left knee lifts. And on the exhale, the knee lowers. And that's when we do the B breath. Okay, so just breathing in. Just keep going. Notice how long your exhale is now. Remember what I said earlier about these birthing breaths? We want the exhale to be really long, because you get the most amount of purchase for pushing, and also the most amount of relaxation response during the exhalation. So the longer we make our exhale, the more we're going to have all of those benefits associated with exhaling for a long time. Just do 2 more. This time you're going to take the foot, bring it over. So you want to get the heel as far round as you can. This is going to stretch the hamstring a little bit more on the right leg, so just notice that that's tugging a little bit more on the hamstring, but you've also now got a stretch on the outside of your hip and the outer hamstring on the left leg. Bring your hands onto the knee and lift the chest, and now you'll feel the hamstring stretch and you'll feel the hip stretch. So as you breathe out, using that B breath, you're going to gently take the belly forwards. That might not go very far. During the later stages of your pregnancy, there's not going to be a lot of room. And you're going to do that with your B breath. And on the inhale, you're going to rise back up and keep the chest lifting. So
my calf, like, is what stretches around
Yeah.
the hamstring when I do that, and does that just mean my calves are tight?
yeah, it's interesting. People always ask me, where should I feel this? And there isn't really any should. You feel it where you're tightest. So if your calf muscles are tighter than your hamstrings, you're going to feel it in the lower leg rather than the upper leg.
Yeah, I can't feel it in my hamstring at all on my calf.
Yeah. So and it doesn't matter. It's you know, you still getting the stretch. Okay, so now the right leg is going to come into the half butterfly pose. Again, make sure the hips are level at the back. Place your hands onto both of your knees. Inhale, let that knee rise up. And then on the exhale, let it go down. And then, yep, using your B breath. Now, every time you breathe out, use your exhale B breath. Notice the length that you have out of the breath. This time take the foot and bring the heel all the way around towards the left buttock. Bring the hands onto the front knee and draw up and out of the hip so you really feel that stretch in the hamstrings. And then using the B breath, folding forwards. One more. And gently release the leg, maybe roll it in and out, maybe bounce it up and down, whatever feels right. Okay, so that's all we're going to do physically. You're going to lie down for the next 10 minutes. So you might want to put something warm on if you feel that you might cool down. Heating doesn't seem to be on. It's alright, so it's not cold, so you're alright. So if you are less than 20 weeks pregnant, it might still be comfortable for you to lie on your back, so you can adopt that position. After 20 weeks, it's recommended to not lie on your back for long periods of time. I know we did a short section this morning, at the beginning of the session. But we were moving, we were lifting the back off the floor, we're lowering and twisting, so there was a bit of movement involved. But generally speaking, we wouldn't lie on the back for long periods of time. But we're talking sort of 2 or 3 hours rather than 10 minutes. You might find it more comfortable after 20 weeks to lie on your side, and it can be the right side or the left side. So again, either of those is absolutely fine. So you go with whatever feels right for you. I'm just going to put a few little lights on at my end so I can see what I'm doing, and then I'm going to turn off the light so that you can relax a little bit more fully. So you might want to place pillows either under your head, or you might find you feel it more comfortable to place a pillow underneath your bump. So if you're having any round ligament pain, it might be more suitable to place something to support your bump. You might want to place a block between the knees if you're having any discomfort around the hips. So basically how you kind of mold yourself into this position is entirely up to you. So take some time, take the time that you need to make yourself really comfortable. And then once you're comfortable, just completely relaxing down into your position. Notice how you feel. Is there any part of your body that maybe still retains a little bit of tightness? I'm just going to put a plug in behind you. Pull along. And then just invite an attitude of softness. So just creating a sense of softening all of the tension in your body. Softening the muscles. And as you continue to create this quality of softness in your body, you might notice that a similar quality to emerge out of that is one of heaviness. So as the body relaxes, notice if those corresponding parts of your body also feel heavy. Another corresponding quality of softness is one of spaciousness. So as you continue this exploration of cultivating softness, notice if you can also cultivate a little bit of spaciousness. And as this spaciousness develops, just notice whether there's a sense that your breath is moving more freely around the spaciousness that you are creating. Is your breath able to move more freely in the lungs and in the chest? But also, is your breath able to move more freely in all of the cells in your body? So does it feel a little bit more spaciousness around the joints? So as you continue to breathe in and out, just feeling that pulse of life, the breath moves in and the breath moves out. Feel that every cell in your body is receiving this breath. And every cell in your body pulses and vibrates with this rhythm. the second quality to consider during our relaxation is the quality of trust. So when we trust, it allows us to move into these states of surrender, which lead to letting go, softness, relaxation. So we begin by trusting the ground beneath us. We trust that the ground beneath us is solid as we lie down. And from that sense of trust in the ground beneath us, we can allow a sense of surrender. We don't need to engage any of our muscles because we are being held, supported by the ground, and we can trust in that process. And we can also trust our own bodies. We can trust that our bodies are strong. We can trust that our bodies can nourish, nurture, and support our baby on their journey within the womb. We can trust that our body knows what to do at the time of delivery. We can trust in the process of birthing our baby. And we can also trust in the support that we may have from the wider medical profession. And through that trust, we can relax completely, knowing that we have everything that we need. You can begin to think about moving gently, slowly with awareness as we come to the end of our session tonight. Be aware once again of your body. Be aware of lying on the ground. And then begin to gently bring some movement into your body. Maybe move your fingers and your toes. Maybe stretch the legs. And in your own time, very gently push yourself away from the ground. And slowly bring yourself back into a seated position. Just take a moment and notice how you feel. Being aware of how you feel in your physical body, so we did a lot of stretching, so hopefully the body feels open, spacious, less achy. Notice how you feel mentally, hopefully little elements of calmness, maybe a little glimpse of relaxation. Thank you all so much for being here, first class back of the new year. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you.